Welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. The Candy Kingdom is a podcast for littles and bigs, where we provide resources and support and a safe space to learn together. So sit back, grab your sippy, stuffy and passy, and let's play. Hi, welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. Thanks for tuning in. We've got lots of fun stuff in store today. We're going to discuss burnout and drop. This is a really tough subject, but it also doesn't get nearly enough attention. And we hope that this session can be illuminating, particularly as it's coming from the perspective of two people who suffer drop on the regular. But before we jump into that, Misty, what's in the news this week?
Glad you asked. So this week we will be drawing the winners of our giveaway. The $30 gift card from Onesies Down Under.
Awesome.
Thank you again to them for giving us a chance and sponsoring that. It was really awesome to see the people who entered and commenting on their favorite collections. And
what's your favorite collection, Misty?
Oh, you know the answer. Okay, so mine was a limited edition release, but it's the cat one,
which is currently in my closet, and I need to send it back to you because you left it here.
Lace, I want you to know that I totally forgot that.
Oh no, I hope you haven't been looking for it.
No, I mean, I literally don't. I haven't seen it, and just
since you were here,
totally just blocked out that I left that there. I haven't even looked for it. I've just been whatever. So that goes to show you how much I love it.
Well, it's been washed and dried, and it's hanging in my closet, and I will be posting it back to you very soon.
Well, great. Well, I really love it, and it was a limited release, and it has awesome lace.
The trimming on the shoulders,
the trimming on the shoulders, and then I have a matching bow with it as well. And it's the only one I have a matching bow with. So
because they do that, they do matching bows and matching
passy clips.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was going to say. And I actually saw, I think about 3 weeks ago when I was looking at the website, building up a wish list. They still have they had some of the little cat bows still there. So if you,
I did see that.
If you like that collection and you want them, they're not very expensive either too. So
no, they were $6, I think, and they were having a clearance sale because it's end of financial year in Australia, so they're getting rid of their stock. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's still happening. Don't quote me on that. It'll probably be over by the time we release this episode, honestly.
Anyway.
And then also, speaking of this episode, Daddy and I went to an event in my town, which was really cool because it's the first place it's a relatively small town, but this person, beautiful, amazing house. But he has built a dungeon in his house, and it was so cool. In the basement. Yeah, it was amazing. There were 3 separate rooms, and there was just an impact room, and then a medical playroom, and then a femdom, I don't even know how to describe it, the other rooms. So that was really cool. But Daddy and I played in front of other people and introduced ourselves as Daddy and baby girl for the first time, but in public. But then I experienced drop because Daddy was supposed to spend so he came over on Saturday afternoon, and then we played on Saturday evening, and he told me when he got here on Saturday afternoon that we'd be spending the whole day on Sunday together, so I was really looking forward to it. But then at around 11 o'clock the next day, there was an emergency with his family, so he had to leave. And as soon as he left, the drop just hit me because I was disappointed, and then we played, and then it was just bringing up I have abandonment issues. That's what happens when your parent leaves you at the age of 7 with strangers. Fun times. Anyway, So it was bringing up all of that, and I was just like so weepy all day, and I slept for 3 hours, and it was awful.
Yeah.
But then he gave me a phone call at the end of the day, and that gave me enough energy and like bounce back to clean my house, which then being surrounded by like cleanliness
Made you feel better.
Picked my mood up. Yeah, picked my mood up a lot more as well.
And we'll talk about this in a moment, but predictable and planned aftercare is really important to help minimize the drop. Which we'll talk about 100%. Later on. But it isn't really something you can avoid. You can mitigate it, but you can't avoid it completely. So I'm really sorry that you lost and didn't get your aftercare as you needed it. But I'm glad you were able to climb on top of it anyway.
All right. Do you have anything to drop in the news?
Not really. I mean, I downloaded Stardew Valley for the Xbox, so that's kind of been my...
we haven't played together in such a long time.
Do you know what it is? It's because the Xbox is so much more intuitive and comfortable to play with, but it has no multiplayer yet. And that's a sin because it got... So Stardew Valley... Pardon?
I said that's so messed up.
Oh, it is. And Stardew Valley came to Xbox before it came to the Nintendo, and now the Nintendo's got multiplayer Stardew Valley, but Xbox does not. So everyone is angry about that, including
I would
me.
be too. That's ridiculous.
But it is really intuitive to play on the Xbox. I don't know, just something about the handheld just makes more sense to me. So, but you know.
But how are we supposed to continue our lesbian poly farm?
Well, that's a good point. So I think I'll just have to suck it up and do a bit of both. But I'm totally going to marry Sam in this one. I've been our relationship is built entirely on pizza, as every good relationship.
I've been giving him Joja Cola.
He doesn't like it. His favorite thing is cactus fruits, pizza, maple bars, and those tiger eye minerals.
Oh my god, you totally want to marry him. You've got his favorite things memorized. That's adorable.
I have his schedule memorized as well. I looked it up on his Wikipedia.
Way.
And also, I know all the heart events. So we just had the heart event where...
Oh, don't tell me I haven't done any heart events with him. I honestly, I never pay attention to him because I'm all about my bitch wife, Haley.
No, she's a bitch wife.
I'm just like, she's such a bitch, but I love her. And I'm like, as soon as she was mean to me, I was like, right, we're getting married now.
Challenge accepted.
Exactly.
Put some fedora. The other thing is, though, I found out something funny. So if you level 10 all the bachelors and you've given them all the bouquets and stuff, there is an event that happens. So there's a party or something at the saloon. And if you're not wearing a lucky rabbit foot as a Brett necklace, they all basically call you on your shit and they're like, how dare you? And you can't say anything. They just have this huge fight with you, all the bachelors, and then they don't talk to you for a week and they are only angry and they don't respect, like, don't accept your gifts or anything like that. And then they forgive you a week later. So anyway, that's a fun little Easter egg.
Ooh, okay. So, for those of you just tuning in, welcome to the Stardew Valley podcast.
Honestly, it's such a good Littles game because it's so relaxing.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's so relaxing. I love the music. And it's satisfying. It's let me go feed my little farm animals.
Do you want to know the names of my chickens? Because I thought they were really funny. And then we'll get on to the episode.
Okay.
So I have 3 chickens right now. One of them is called the Colonel. And I didn't even know about the thing on Fable, or I think it's Fable where you it's another game. Anyway, crossover.
Yeah.
The next one is called Lily, as in Lilydale Chickens, which we have here in Australia, which is like a chicken company.
Are they the free range ones?
Yeah.
I think
and
Lilydale.
The other one is called Stegel, which is another chicken company. It's still got Lily, Stegel, and the Colonel. And I think they're really unique names. Anyway, so we should end the Stardew Valley podcast here at a neat 9 minutes and move on to the rest of the episode.
So we are going to start this episode with burnout. So what is burnout? Actually, when I was doing some research about this episode, I just Googled relationship burnout, honestly, because this isn't a thing that happens just with BDSM, CGL relationships.
No, it's something not mutually exclusive.
No, and it doesn't just happen in romantic relationships either.
No.
There's all sorts of types of relationships where you can suffer from burnout, or just all types of things where you can suffer from burnout. Actually, I saw the other day that it's potentially going to be classified as a medical condition, like
Nice.
employment burnout, or just being burnt out at work. So
Interesting.
right. So now that I've gone on the rant, Lace, what is burnout?
So burnout is when you experience symptoms like a lack of interest or passion in your dynamic or your relationship, or toward whatever the situation is, and not getting what you want out of it. So the symptoms are things like engaging in dynamic play causes dread rather than excitement. You're more focused on what other people are doing in their dynamics than in yours, like in an envious way. Straight up disinterest, not keeping up your end of the bargain consistently, and not really caring about that either. So this is different from like if let's say you're burned out with mental health. This is something that happens to me regularly. And then because of that, I'm not able to, keep up my end of the bargain in terms of my rules and my tasks and my subspace and all those sorts of things. That is sort of one thing affecting the other. This is like you're burned out by the relationship, if we're focusing on the relationship side of things.
So not really anything externally is going on. It's
just the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's experienced that in some way, shape or form. So it is really a similar emotion to that when it's in a situation like you're sick of your job, or you're bored of your degree that you're studying, or, just get sick of things, and you're just like, and everything's very overwhelming really easily. You have no patience for the situation, no tolerance, and you find yourself I find it really is an instigator for arguments, especially with people that don't usually argue.
I also think like it's the excuses kind of pile up. You're just trying to find a way out of things. So like with me, when I was burnt out with uni, or when I was burnt out at work, it was like I'd wake up and I'd have a cramp in my leg, and I'd be like, oh, well, I can't go to class today. Like something so inconsequential. And I was just like, I know I could just stretch out a leg cramp, but I was like, nope, I'm totally incapacitated. Yeah. There's no way I can go.
Yeah, making a mountain out of a molehill, because you just can't summon the will to do the thing that you just don't want to do it anymore. For me, that manifests in physical sickness. So a lot of the time...
Like, you mean anxiety, like...
Well, it kind of, like, my anxiety actually predicates the burnout. So I will be anxious about a situation, or I'll be burned out about it, and then it'll make me sick. Like, I'll get tummy stuff, or a cold, or the flu, or something like that. Sort of like regularly. I'm always sick all the time, because anxiety burns me out on everything, like, which is just a part of mental health, I guess. So it's a kind of double-edged sword, and it can be a bit of a double effect for people who are low on spoons. Watch out for that as well. And to be honest, burnout can look different for different people. Some people, it can make them argue, whereas others who are really feisty and kind of love a bit of back and forth, they might become disinterested in engaging altogether. So I think it's important to talk about what does it look like for you to be burned out in a situation, and ask what your partner's signs are as well, so you can keep an eye out for each other.
And it comes back to that mindfulness as well. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to give another example, but honestly, I don't think we need to really go into it any deeper. But it's about mindfulness and recognizing what's going on with yourself. And then it's about
what are we gonna do?
What to do about it.
Yeah.
So I've got some things here about, when you're burnt out in your dynamic. Not just... So there's a separate issue where... Like in our kick group, we've got a lot of littles who are saying, I can't get into little space. So that's a separate kind of issue. This is like when you're in your dynamic and you're kind of
exhausted
over
by
it for whatever reason. So just some steps to go through. Obviously, we always want to communicate what's happening because that's such a huge aspect of BDSM and CGL. There's no point in keeping things to yourself because that's just going to lead to it building up. Yep. You're going to have the secret resentment that's going to cause you to argue. You're going to get frustrated really easily. And then it can also lead to confusion or anxiety on your partner's part because they're not really sure what's going on and why you're reacting to things that they normally do in a negative way.
Yep.
Yeah. So that can be upsetting. Like I know for littles it's like,
it's so
the rug's been ripped out from under my feet. Like, what's going on? Like, I think I'm being cute and being fun and playful, and my partner's, snapping at me.
Yes.
And notice the use of the word partner because CGL and BDSM, you're still partners. So that's really,
One thing I've always thought is a really good analogy, or I guess not analogy. It's I don't know. I'll see how you feel about this. I feel like when you're in a dynamic with somebody, you're actually in two relationships. You're in a relationship with a dynamic with them, and you're in the relationship of just being in a relationship with somebody. If you are, sometimes people are not in a relationship, but they're in the dynamic. And so that is different again. But in my experience, it's been you were in the relationship and in a dynamic as well.
In the dynamic,
So you've got to remember that it's like particularly...
a normal relationship.
Yeah, and this person's going to have normal relationship responses and also the response as part of their role in the dynamic. So it can get really overwhelming really quickly for everybody involved. That is why it's really important to not get into these dynamics if you're not, I guess, at least stable enough to know stepping back, having a meta talk is okay, and trying your best to not let the insecurity kind of burn away at you, because at the end of the day, this is a really full-on relationship style to have with somebody. And if they're, burnout this is why we're talking about it. This happens. It's a really regular, normal occurrence. And you need to have a bushfire plan for if it happens.
Yes, exactly. And before we get into our next point, I just want to read out the post that kind of inspired this episode. So this is posted on Reddit, on the BDSM advice subreddit. So if you have a Reddit account and you're looking for, questions that people have asked and answers that people have given, this is and you want to ask your own questions, it's a pretty good place to head to. So this person put as the subject, daddy drop, ? And they said, my wife and I, both 22, practice a DDLG lifestyle in our day-to-day lives. Usually I have no issue getting up and taking on the caregiver role, getting juice and snacks, picking out clothes, etc. For some reason this morning I couldn't. I woke up even more tired than I went to bed, even though I slept nearly 12 hours. I woke up and I just have no interest in taking care of myself, let alone another human being. I'm conflicted. I do not want to be a bad daddy, but I'm not sure how to snap out of this headspace. I feel ashamed for feeling this way because she doesn't deserve me acting like this. Has anyone else experienced this? Any advice on how to fix it or how long this might last? So that was the end of the post. And I just feel like something we need to immediately address is that that's okay, like to feel those feelings of guilt, but also to acknowledge how you're feeling. And this person may not just be feeling burnout. Like there could also be some mental health issues going on.
It does sound like that.
We don't know the exact circumstances, but it did get me thinking, what can we do to address this? Because it's something that, that wasn't the first post that I've seen about that, where people are feeling guilty for taking time for themselves or not being able to fulfill what they see as their role.
I think also for the caregiver in particular, there's this massive expectation that they are to be on all the time, and that the part of the caregiver role is that you are consistent and that you are there for your little and that you are the rock. And that's true in a lot of ways. But you've got to remember that the dynamic always has to come second to the mental health of the participants and the well-being of the participants. So upholding your end of the bargain is only doable if all your other ducks are in a line. Now,
I just also want to say that upholding your end of the bargain can just be you taking care of yourself as well.
Well, this is why when we were talking about negotiating the dynamic and that checklist, what does low protocol look like for the caregiver as well as for the little? And the mental heads, I've said it once, I'll say it again, the mental headspace of caregivers is just not really focused on enough in the community because at the end of the day, they're a big driving force in this partnership. They take on a lot of responsibility, and so it's a lot. And if they're burning out a lot regularly and often, then I don't think there's enough focus on
how they should be recovering themselves, or
what is
or maybe
sustainable.
they just have taken exactly, maybe they've taken on way too much, and you know what, I always kind of feel bad saying this, but then again, it might be a incompatibility issue. Like, we always have to go back to that person can't handle all of the things that you need them to be responsible for, and therefore that means you guys just aren't compatible. They need to find a little that they can address the things that little wants to work on, and you need to find a caregiver who's capable of taking on the things. It's just kind of like, look at where we talked about it in the pre-work, look at your areas of strength and your areas of need and talk about that. And if they have skills in a certain area that fits perfectly with you, then go for that person. Like, you don't need to settle just to be in a dynamic.
Yes, 100%. That's preach it. We need that on a friggin' t-shirt. It's so true. I think
it is so true.
There isn't also a point about, like, this is more, I suppose, for impact play or edge play and DS, where the sub has to be given competent aftercare so that they get rebuilt as human beings. Because a lot of the time, this kind of impact play and edge play and all that sort of thing can be quite, it tears you down.
Intense.
Yeah. And for a lot of subs, that's what they want. They need that catharsis of feeling torn down and then built back up again to feel like a real person, That's what the aftercare is for. It's to get you back onto that level playing field. And I've heard a lot of DOMs talking about, the aftercare for me is about making me feel like a human again, not like a monster who's just done these horrible things. And caregivers
knowing
are susceptible
that you
to
enjoyed
that too.
that.
Yeah, because for some people in this dynamic, there is that element of physical play. Not for all, obviously, because for some people it's non-sexual. But I definitely think for the littles that are in that kind of more DS leaning style of relationship where there is the physical and edge play and all that sort of thing, the caregiver can be susceptible. It's, in fact, I've seen it more in caregivers than I have in DS because they are so used to the nurturing. How do you put nurturing with edge play? It's a bit of a dichotomy.
Like a sadistic caregiver.
Yeah, which that sounds like wiggly toes to me, but anyway. Oh, sadistic caregiver, Lord, I like
Girl,
that.
same.
All my buttons are pushed now.
So, we just wanted to say there's nothing wrong with taking a break for the dynamic either. I see a lot of this where it's like, we're dominants and submissives, all, like, that's just who we are, and we should want to be in that headspace all of the time, and we're caregivers and littles, we should want to be. And I'm like, being 24/7 is a lot of work on everyone's parts. That's number one. Number two, there is no freaking way you can be. I'm sorry, if I go to work and I try to get my boss or my coworkers to caregive for me because I'm in a little space, that's not appropriate. So we're not always, we're existing along a spectrum, and we're adults who can figure out when it is and isn't appropriate to be in that headspace.
Yes.
And if you're not feeling okay, or your partner is not feeling okay,
then it's not acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay. And what's the point in trying to be CGL all the time if you're going to half-ass it just so you can say, we're CGL 24/7. Okay.
A lot of people wear that as a badge, and to me it says their ego is bigger than their care for themselves and for their partners.
and for just being realistic, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd rather whole ass being in a CGL dynamic for 15 minutes a day than say I'm 24/7 and not put in any effort and realizing what's healthy and what's
not,
and what's exactly.
And I get that. Like, I get that some people want to be. I think especially when you're first starting out, because you're going from not being in a dynamic. So yeah, it can feel like you want to be under the master hand forever. You know, I get that, and that's called sub-frenzy.
Frenzy.
So, you know, like, I get it. There is a time and a place for that, and if that
and I honestly controversial. I honestly think there's dom frenzy as well.
Oh, absolutely, especially with daddy frenzy. I feel it. You know.
So just saying.
But the point about all of that is it can make you make some really silly decisions, I'd say, or not thoughtful decisions. And look, that sort of first little bit is so exciting. I get it. And I tend to not actually bank anything that it's going to be like an indicator for what the whole relationship's going to be like on the first 2 weeks, because it's just not you, it's you being crazy.
Honeymoon.
Yeah. And full of really excited endorphins and excited feelings, and then, you know, that's not the meat and bones, that's the exciting bit. So, you know, it can feel like it can be sustainable at that level, but it isn't. You know, the fire will eventually burn out real quick if you don't slow it down and sit back and go, okay, what's real?
And it does not make you a fake caregiver or a fake little because you need to take a break. It's like, you know, a professional ballerina. Oh, she's not dancing right now. She's a fake ballerina. She should be dancing all the time.
Every day, all day.
No, that's not how things work. No. And even in the vanilla stuff that I read, it was just talking about how taking a break does several things. It's not talking about, you know, God, I was going to say something really it's not like doing a Rachel and Ross break from Friends. What? I'm sorry. You never watched Friends?
Misty, how many times do I have to tell you this?
I don't watch TV. Right. Okay, whatever. So Friends was a cool show back in the 2000s and 90s.
Thank you.
Anyway, Ross and Rachel were on a break, but then Ross slept with someone else, and then Rachel was like, I hate you or whatever, and then he just kept saying, we were on a break, and it's a thing. Anyway.
He's a boy, right?
He's such a boy, hey.
Like, everyone hates him now because they look back and they're like, you are a toxic,
they're like,
gross
what
man.
The heck? Yeah. He was so toxic. He was the least interesting one on that show.
He was an archaeologist. He had a thing about lunch. I feel like there was a lunch. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't remember either.
I have no idea. He was bland as heck. So then, he's no Chandler, that's for sure.
Chandler's the best. So it was just saying how, you know, let me see if I can find the exact quote it said. I found it a bit cheesy, but I also was like, that's kind of true. But the article said breaks intensify the pleasure. So taking a break gives you room to breathe, and it gives you time to miss the dynamic. So that's what they mean by, you know, intensifying the pleasure when you go away from something, and then just think about something you haven't eaten. I'm sorry, I always have to relate back to food and meat, but just think about some particular meat that you haven't eaten. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, some plant that you haven't eaten in a long time, and it was so amazing.
For me, it's the chocolate mousse at KFC. I don't eat it much, but when I do, it's like, oh my God. Especially if it's slightly frozen, it's, oh my God.
See, for me, it was chalk custard donuts from Krispy Kreme, but I ate too many. I had it so much that I was just over it. I was eating 2 a day.
Could you say that you were burned out on it?
I was burnt out, yes. All right, but and roll credits.
That's the end of the episode. I think you've got the point now, viewer. or the anyway, but it's good to miss. It's good to miss. It's good to think about what is going right, what is stressing you out. And it is, you know, important to step back and have that moment of reflection, either by yourself or with your partner, but or partners, in meta. I don't think you could do
Yes.
this from within the dynamic safely.
Nah, no, don't do it. So then we've also put here, because life is life, it's unlikely that you will both be burnt out at the same time.
Yeah.
So what can you do to still be there for your partner without compromising your need to have a bit of a break and step back? So I think for littles, you need to understand that the biggest worry for your caregiver is not feeling needed. So I think the things that you have to put in place to manage that are about how you can still make them feel or let them know that they not just feel it, but let them know that they are needed, but just right now in either a different way or in a way that's not so taxing on yourself, if that makes sense. So it might not be the things that you've agreed on previously. Like it might not be, I need to, message my lunch choices or my outfit choices, because that might be too taxing for you. But it can just be a little message that says,
here's what I'm wearing
I don't know what
today. This was your
or I was
favorite
just thinking,
at one point.
or like, what should I'm like, it can be genuine stuff. Like, I don't know which drink to pick, with my lunch, and you can text them that. And that's something that happens in vanilla relationships too. Like, I don't know, or maybe I've secretly been in a CGL relationship, every relationship that I've had, but I usually am like, I don't know what to have for lunch, and like text choices. So stuff like that. And then on the flip side, or did you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't.
Okay, so caregivers, you need to think about the fact that your little is worried about being abandoned or left without care.
Or protocol, routine and stuff.
Yeah, and ghosting is such a massive issue.
It happens, and
I'm so tired of it.
I'm
Don't
done.
ghost people. Don't do it. It does not take much to send a text. I did this, what episode was it, where I went on that date and I was like, look, I don't think we're compatible. Like, people ghost nowadays rather than having the decency to say that to someone and keep them from wondering. Just think about how you would feel if someone ghosted you, or how you have felt. It's not nice. Just the golden rule, people. Treat others how you wish to be treated yourself.
Especially, okay? I find, and like, not to self-burn, but people that have anxiety, we're not good at having those confronting conversations. And I get it. It's really easy to just stop messaging. But at the end of the day, that's not healthy. That's not fair. And especially if you're actually in a dynamic with somebody, being just like feeling that person slip away and you can't say or do anything to penetrate their armor, you've got to be the bigger person if you're doing that to someone and say, hey, I'm really sorry, this isn't working.
Yep.
And it's going to hurt, and I'm sorry it's going to hurt, but this is just the way it has to be. You've got to be selfish sometimes and just make that call, because a lot of the time doing the selfish thing is doing the most caring and humane thing to somebody who deserves the truth.
Exactly. And sometimes that stuff turns out in your favor anyway. Put good karma into the universe, guys. So then we were talking about just putting together. So then we said switch burnout. So obviously neither of us are really switches. So sorry, switches, but the one thing that I've thought of is it time to switch roles, or is it time to just, again, like with littles and caregivers, step out of the dynamic completely and give yourself a break?
Yeah. I'd like to think the person that you're in a dynamic with is somebody that you're also close enough with to be either friends or still in a relationship where you're just being buddies. Like, if you don't enjoy spending time with each other, that's a problem deeper than caregiver burnout or little burnout.
Yes,
that's something
so
else
true.
Completely. So if you can't
it
step
needs
back,
to be a relationship.
If you can't step back from your dynamic for any given amount of time, or the idea of it makes you feel like, we'll have nothing to talk about, or we won't be able to this and that. Like, if you can't be friends outside of your dynamic, you shouldn't be in a dynamic.
Yeah, agreed. Unless you're paying for, professional services.
Well,
totally different.
That's different,
but, yeah, 100% different. But I'm just trying to highlight the fact that, is this supposed to be your professional caregiver or a professional little? No, it's supposed to be your partner. So, yeah. So now we're going to wrap up the episode a little bit, because what are we in? 35 minutes. So we're just going to wrap up with what to do when burnt out in terms of if you're a single caregiver, a single little, or a single switch, and you can't get into the right headspace.
This is hard.
So we've just got some,
This is real hard.
So hard.
It's really hard. A lot of people, I find, they need that yin to their yang to be able to get into the space. I'm not that person.
What do you mean yin to their yang?
So
you mean they need the partner, the other side of the
feel
slash.
like they're living out there.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the idea of playing alone is a really interesting one. There's this person who's a female dom at one of the play parties I go to regularly, and she has devised this thing whereupon she will self-tie, and she does it at parties. She doesn't just do it at home, she does it at parties. She takes up space to be able to do a tie. She's quite happy and comfortable for people to watch, but this person's a very extroverted person, so she normally does a lot of talking to people, and people always gravitate to her because she's very enigmatic and has lots of really great personality attributes that people are drawn to. So what she does is she puts on a face mask, and I think it's like a gas mask or something like that. But it means it's like her mute button. I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm not going to listen to you. I'm in my personal space now. And then she plays on her own in the party, and she loves it. She says it's so refreshing and thrilling and just calming, and to give herself that space and that time is this ultimate act of self-love for her. So,
well, that sounds like the most mindful thing. Like you're paying 100% attention to what you're doing to yourself.
Yep.
Wow.
And
just blew my mind.
It's amazing. It blew my mind too. And we talk about this a couple of times, and I talked to her about this at the most recent party that I was at, and it just is so cool. I just think it's such a mature way of looking at it, and I kind of feel like single kinksters need to be able to access their space reliably on their own, as well as with a partner or partners. And it's hard work, but I think it's really rewarding. It's like any relationship. You need to be able to be alone comfortably to know what you can bring and what you need from somebody else.
Exactly. So if you're exploring by yourself, you're discovering new things that you can then bring to someone else.
Exactly, yeah. Or you might even just like playing by yourself. You never know.
Exactly. I've been living that single little life and being a long distance little. There's lots of times where I just need to get into my headspace and I just kind of play by myself, you know? Not play with myself.
But anyway. It is kind of, because you're doing coloring and you're kind of spending time with you and treating
play
yourself.
With myself.
Oh, you meant... Poor me. Poor innocent me. I'm too little for this.
You're too small.
I'm too small. I'm just really small right now.
Right. So what can you do to help yourself get into your headspace? You guys are going to hate me, but mindfulness.
It's true, though.
It is.
Examining your emotions when you're feeling like
whatever
you can't
way.
get into that space, or when you are in that space, and the actions you've taken and what the patterns are, if you can find them and try to figure out, how did I get here?
Yes, what's step. Working and what isn't so great, you know? And you can make this part, like if you if you journal this, and you're a middle, let's say, and you journal it in your, password protected journal, or you're a little and you write it out in crayon, that's still you engaging in that headspace for yourself, but also being productive.
Yes.
I like double whammies,
Yeah.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Exactly.
So the other thing that we've suggested is just talking to people in the community.
Yep. Talking to other littles and also other caregivers too.
Caregivers. So sometimes talking to another little when they say, I tried this or this is what I did, just cooing over what they did or getting excited about it or getting inspired by it puts me into that headspace too. Because I'm like, oh, that's something that I want to try. Or where did you find that? Or, you know, how have you used this kind of thing?
Yes.
And then with caregivers as well, you can find ideas for, you know, what apps people are using to keep track of, you know, their littles or, you know, whatever you need to do to kind of get you inspired again, pretty much.
Social media is really good for this, particularly FetLife and, as you said, Reddit, Kik groups. There is lots of Tumblr.
So many.
Tumblr, I find, is actually really hard to find kink, though, because it's been put behind a shame wall. But FetLife is fantastic, you know. And
I've actually, since running our Twitter as well, I've come across a lot of, and our Instagram as well, there's like the aesthetic that you can kind of, you know, like, honestly, and sometimes I feel like spreading that positivity towards other littles helps me as well, because I'll just comment on something and be like, you look so cute, and I'll just get like the happy feelings because I'm like, look how cute they are, and I want to be that cute, and that kind of stuff.
I think we should put together a resource of like online presence people who are good places to start looking at.
That's a good idea.
But I mean, for the meantime, just look at who we're following on Instagram and Twitter particularly, and you'll find resources, community, people everywhere, because it's
get involved with your community. Don't isolate yourself, because that's where the feelings of shame and feeling, you know, like you're the only person who, you know,
the only gay in the village.
Seriously, you don't want to feel that way. It's so nice to be part of a community.
Yeah, absolutely. So much.
So our third tip. This is scary. It's about trying something new or trying something you tried before, but you were kind of like, that's not really my thing. It's about mixing things up and kind of shocking your system, you know, and seeing what you end up liking.
And some things you didn't like before, you might like now. Tastes change.
Yes. I have a case in point. Well, I never tried it, but I like super judged diaper wearers and pull-up wearers. And I was like, what? Why would you ever do that? Why the heck did I even try diapers in the first place? I have no idea. Oh, right, because I was listening to a podcast about it. And like the person was explaining it really well. We might link it in the show notes if you want to listen to a podcast about trying diapers. But anyway, and I was like, all right, and I guess I'll try it. And then I was like, this is awesome.
There you go.
And now it's such a huge part of my little space. So, you know, examples.
I didn't think I was going to get along with anybody in the community. Not because of elitist stuff, just that I didn't know how littles fit into... And I didn't really know that I was a little until... kind of really late in the piece, so I didn't think there was people like me or people like I was like, I like BDSM, but I don't feel like I'm a really good sub. Like I'm more of a kitten, and I'm kind of have these other kind of tendencies where I need to be looked after, and maybe it's not for me. And then I joined FetLife, and I'm like, oh wait, whoops, I'm stupid. It's a whole bunch of people just like me. I'm not special.
That's always so helpful, though.
But there is actually a whole community of people that I can talk to now and get to know, and it's opened up a whole bunch of avenues that I didn't think I could ever explore or even know about. And the safety aspect and the sort of the etiquette online. And
the looking after each other as well. It's really honestly good. We're not saying that it's sunshine and roses, because there are always going to be toxic people that slip in. But it's pretty much, like we've said before, a self-governed community, and
even people that you don't get along with, you will respect and protect their right to safety and anonymity in the outside world and not being outed. And you don't get that anywhere else.
No, people don't really understand that in other spaces. So the fourth tip that we have is about, you know, just put it away. Put it away without beating yourself up, without putting yourself down for not being able to get into that headspace, without thinking, what's wrong with me, or any of that stuff. You know, you can explore other aspects of yourself. You know, you're not just a little, you're not just a caregiver. So like Lace just said, she's a kitten. Maybe you spend time, you know, just doing kitten things or doing puppy things.
Oh, exactly.
Or doing
Yep.
rope bunny things.
And even
know?
outside of dynamics, I'm a gardener. I love to garden. Maybe I need to get back in touch with that. Maybe there's a complete, because kink takes over, you know?
I know.
Especially if you've got protocol. And you need to be able to find time to either build into protocol, or if your protocol is only kink-centric, have time that you can step away and engage in the other things you're interested in, because you will lose yourself otherwise. And that kind of can lead to burning out as well.
It can lead to so much burning out. Like with my profession, I'm surrounding myself with everything. I was listening to, like, I'd go to work and I do it all day at work and I chat about it, and then I like listen to podcasts about it, and just thinking about it all the time, thinking about, you know, what I was going to do the next day and what I didn't do right the day of, and it was just exhausting. So yeah, give yourself those breaks.
It's supposed to be a hobby and a lifestyle, but something that brings you joy and makes you feel energized. And if it starts to feel like a drag, it shouldn't. Like, that is a red flag right there. So I always pick up things I'm interested in outside of it to try and rejuvenate myself. Maybe I'm not giving enough care to my vanilla self to then support my kink self. And I know it sounds a little bit bipolar talking about it in two different headspaces, but sometimes it can be helpful to separate them like that, so that you can remember that underneath all of this, you're just you, and you need to give that part of you, that core part of yourself, the respect and time and care that it needs to then support all the extraneous activities you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our last tip, again, a scary one.
Oh, geez, you're really laying it on hard today, aren't you? You Misty the Dom.
I'm so sorry. Well, okay. Well, now that you say it that way, that's kind of hot. But anyway, acknowledge that you may be evolving, okay? I've said this to people, and I'm like, hey, maybe you don't like wearing diapers anymore. Yeah. That's okay, you know?
Yeah.
I used to I never loved chocolate ice cream. That was a bad example. I'm trying to think of something I used to love, and then I was like, you know what? I don't really care for this anymore. It didn't shake up my whole world. It was just kind of like
a previous kink partner that I had, who was a little, and I was their caregiver. She grew out. She felt different in our dynamic than she had in another. So based on your caregiver's preferences as well, you might feel like, this is just for littles particularly, you might feel like, it's weird. I used to really love being in diapers, but now I don't.
It's not even particularly for littles, you know? If you're a caregiver and your little that you have now brings out a different side of you, that's okay. We all evolve.
Okay. And sometimes it can be a little bit destabilizing, particularly for people that have a real set identity in what they think their little space looks like. But it's okay to gravitate into different areas. Maybe the little, maybe you might have been into ABDL. Maybe with your next partner, you kind of grew up a little bit and you were more into like a toddler phase or a middle or something like that, So that's okay too. Please don't try not to feel destabilized by that. And if you are evolving and you're within the same partner, talk to them about that so they know.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess we just want to, reassure you that these things are fine, and it's fine to be burnt out. It happens to everyone, but, here's how you can manage it, and here's how you can try to prevent it.
Or at least mitigate it, because at the end of the day, these things drop and burn out, which I guess we're going to talk about drop in the next episode. But these things are a part of kink. They're an unfortunate part of kink, but human beings are not like, we're like rubber bands. If we're pulled too much, eventually we're going to snap back. And the thing about kink is, as much as we love it and it feels like a natural extension of our personalities, it is really demanding, and it's a lot of energy, mental and physical, a lot of the time. So if you do snap back and need a bit of a recoil, that's cool. You're allowed to. And please make sure that you have a partner who respects and understands your right to that as well as their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful summary, Lace.
Thanks, Missy.
So we need to announce the winner of our giveaway.
Yay!
Thank you again to everyone who entered our first sponsored giveaway.
Thank you.
We'd also like to send out a huge thank you to Onesies Down Under for giving us this opportunity. And now I won't make you wait much longer. So our winner is Pinky Little Kitten.
Yay!
So congratulations. So we will be direct messaging you on Instagram, which is how you entered.
Yeah.
And just giving you our contact details to get in touch with us via our email. But if you happen to be listening, just shoot us an email at thecandykingdom, KINKDOM @gmail.com.
Yeah.
Thanks again to everyone, and thank you to Onesies Down Under.
Thank you.
So thanks for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us as usual at the Candy Kingdom and all of our social media. We hope you have a sweet week, and we will catch you next time, Candy Crew. Bye.
Bye.